about us as a company. As Kareem and Fritz have said, we've been in business for 10 years. I'm actually in Miami, but I get to New England a lot, and we have our team in New England as well. I have the pleasure to live in Miami. We cover the entire United States, Canada, and most of the Caribbean as a company. And we are a luxury tour operator. And what we do is we book full programs that include tours, experiences, hotels, everything that you might need. I know that many of you have traveled, obviously, with Kareem and Fritz in the past all over the world to places like Morocco, and you may be more familiar with companies like ours in those other countries. We do the exact same thing in the United States and Canada that you might experience when you travel abroad. We take care of everything from end to end. We book all the services. We provide 24/7 support and provide you a really immersive experience. And obviously, with what's going on with COVID, more and more travelers are looking to stay and might have to stay for a little while in the United States. So we really wanted to come up with some great programs for you. We work only with companies, like Kareem and Fritz's. We don't work directly with the consumer. So we work with experts like them, and we're partners together with them to plan your trip. And we do that as partners. We work with a number of major tour operators around the world, and even during this crazy time, we have no debt. We're in great financial health, and there for all of you for your travels. A little bit about what we offer. For example, we'll talk a little bit about New England. What we will do is work together with you to create a customized program, to understand what you need in terms of the hotels, the transportation, the tours. When you're traveling, we provide a 24/7 concierge that's in touch with you by phone, by text, and however else you need to provide restaurant reservations, tickets, everything that you might need along the way, whether you're self-driving or not. And with all of our programs, we can either put together a self-drive program where you're leaving your own backyard and driving to, let's say, New England, or we can have a driver guide who drives you all along the way. If you're self-driving, we still put together an amazing road book for you, and then we essentially book all the services along the way. So you're getting yourself between the destinations, but we're actually taking care of all the other experiences. We've had a lot of requests recently for RV rentals, obviously for the reason that people don't want to necessarily stop along the way. We are able to help with RV rentals. We are getting requests for home rentals as well. But I do like to mention that we're not an RV company. What we do is put everything together, including the RV, but it's more about the overall package and the overall experience. I do want to mention in terms of this COVID time that we as a company are very serious about health and safety. We've always been very focused on that, but now more than ever. We are very much, we've hired our own epidemiologist to provide us new policies and procedures. And all the properties that we are choosing to work with, we are monitoring all of their policies and procedures to ensure that they're letting rooms rest between clients traveling, that they're not operating at full capacity, that they have physical distancing in their dining outlets, that they have touchless check-in. For all of our guides and our drivers, we're ensuring that they're wearing masks, that they're providing social distancing, that they're washing hands, that they're doing daily temperature checks, and really ensuring that everything is up to snuff as we go into this new era of COVID travel. The last thing is to note is that we're providing a worry-free cancellation policy, which means that if you book a trip with us now, up to a very short period before travel, the trip is 100% refundable. And that, of course, if there's any issues before you travel with quarantines or new restrictions, that you are able to also get 100% refund. So we want to make sure that everything is completely worry-free for you as you plan your trips. Kareem asked me really to talk a little bit about New England today, but obviously for those of you that are interested in planning trips to the national parks, to the south, to the mid-Atlantic with us, even to Canada and Alaska this summer and this fall, we're able to assist you along with Kareem and his team to do that as well. But we wanted to just focus a little bit on New England first, since obviously it is fairly close to Detroit, and it's a great destination. So a little bit about New England. Obviously, for those of you that have been, you know, fantastic in terms of amazing seafood, amazing cocktails, great hiking, great biking, great waterfront activities. For those of you that are interested in the arts, a lot of arts destinations. And you know, in terms of the COVID kind of update, most of New England will be completely accessible starting in July for travel. Maine has just lifted its quarantine, but is requiring COVID testing certification. It's not clear yet what that will look like, but they do not have a quarantine any longer. Most of the states are lifting their quarantines in the next 2 weeks. And most of these major properties that we'll talk about have opened or reopening in the next 2 weeks. So anywhere from July onwards, we're looking at a really good time to start planning travel to this fantastic destination. Obviously, New England pairs really well with upstate New York, with Pennsylvania. We'll talk a little bit about that on the way. Also with Canada and, you know, including Quebec to the north and Nova Scotia and New Brunswick to the east. So it can be a very short trip or it can be a very long trip if you decide to combine it with Canada and other provinces as well. Obviously, Boston is the gateway to New England. There's fantastic history experiences here. We work with a number of great properties like the Four Seasons, the Mandarin, and XV Beacon. It's a very walkable city, but obviously for those of you that maybe want to stay away from major cities and you're doing a driving trip, you can come to Boston or you can avoid it completely on a trip. The next area that I want to just sort of talk about a little bit is Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Really, the coastal properties that we focus on the most in terms of beach destinations are going to be either in Rhode Island or Massachusetts. You've got Watch Hill with Ocean House. You've got Newport with Vanderbilt. Then on the Cape, you've got Chatham Bars Inn, which is a fantastic property. And then some of you were talking about your Nantucket Reds. We've got the White Elephant property in Nantucket that we absolutely love. So we can plan trips for you to go to all of those properties or some of them based on your time frame and how much driving you want to take. So that is you know, that is kind of an overview of those properties. I'm going to show you a little bit about some of the pictures of some of the properties as well. In Connecticut and Western Massachusetts, you've got some amazing properties in Litchfield County, like Winbian and the Auberge Mayflower. And then, of course, in the Lenox area, you've got the Wheatley property. This is a fantastic, you know, the Berkshires are fantastic for leaf peeping later in the season. In the summer, they're great for arts. You've got Mass Mocha, which is here. We do a lot of very special behind the scenes access to Mass Mocha, private museum collections. You've got a great destination for driving trips, beautiful scenery. We also have great antiquing. We have antiques experts that can take you on a day trip to go antiquing as well in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts. The next area that we will talk a little bit about is Vermont and New Hampshire as you go north. This is really the White Mountains. We have Stowe, Barnard, and Woodstock. Great things that we can plan for you when you're traveling here are beer tours, cider tours, visiting farms, kayaking and hiking. If you like Ben and Jerry's, a lot of us have been eating a lot of Ben and Jerry's during the quarantine. You can visit Ben and Jerry's on a private tour, cooking classes, and there are some absolutely incredible properties in Vermont and New Hampshire. One of our favorites is Twin Farms, which is a all-inclusive property. There's also the Woodstock Inn. Something that's important to note is that Vermont is fantastic for foodies and romance, whereas New Hampshire is a little bit more rustic and the properties are a little bit less luxurious, but great for hiking in the White Mountains. Again, most of our clients are self-driving to Vermont and New Hampshire, and then are actually meeting our guides for for hiking and biking and experiences as well. Um, in terms of leaf peeping, because some of you might have questions there, as you go north, the leaf peeping season starts to get later. So Connecticut, you're looking at more of a late sort of late September, October period. By the time you get up to Vermont and even further north into Maine, you're looking at late October, early November for leaf peeping. The last area I'll talk about is coastal Maine. One of my favorite places on earth, absolutely incredible scenery. You've got incredible beach towns like Ogunquit, the Kennebunks, Portland, Camden. You've got great craft beers. We can do biking tours of the lighthouses, flight scene tours over Acadia National Park. We can take you out on a lobster cruise where you actually catch your own lobster and have a lobster dinner. There's great arts in Portland as well. And some of our favorite properties here are Cliff House, Hamden Inn, and the White Barn Inn as well. Now I want to really just talk a little bit about the stops along the way as you're getting to New England. So for those of you that are driving, obviously the fastest way to drive from New York is often through Canada. Currently the Canadian border obviously is closed. It's supposed to open in the end of June, June 22nd, but there is talk of that being extended through July. Our best guess is that the Canadian-American border, U.S. border will open at the end of July. So if you're planning a trip, before the end of July, it's likely you will have to go the southern direction through Pennsylvania or upstate New York. If you're planning a trip after July and the border opens, obviously you can go north and then up through upstate New York to New England. There are some great stops in Pennsylvania for those of you that have not done it yet. If you go through southwestern Pennsylvania, and I'll show you some of these pictures at the end of the presentation, you've got a great 5-star resort called Nemacolin. That's a really incredible property. There's a lot of arts there. You have Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water and some incredible other arts destinations that are there in southwestern Pennsylvania. You can also go through Gettysburg and visit the Gettysburg National Historical Site. We have fantastic guides that can do a full day tour in Gettysburg. And there's a 4-star resort. It's not quite as nice as Nemacolin, but it's called Liberty Mountain Resort. The other option is to go through Lancaster. This is, of course, the Amish country, great farms, great Amish foods. And there is a Forbes 5-star property called Inn at Leola Village, which is located near Lancaster. For those of you that choose to go through upstate New York, there's other great stops here. Cooperstown with the Baseball Hall of Fame. There is a property there called Otesaga Resort. The Hudson Valley, if you want to go around New York City, obviously, and avoid the big cities, the Hudson Valley is incredible for sculpture gardens, Beacon and the arts there, FDR's home, and a lot of great arts and food in the Hudson Valley. And we have a property there called Troutbeck. For those of you that want to visit Saratoga Springs, you've got the Saratoga Arms. Then there's the Finger Lakes, and of course, up north, you've got Lake Placid and Saranac Lake. There's the Lake Placid Lodge and the Point, which are fantastic properties as well. So to just give you a quick orientation, obviously, you've got Detroit here. As I said, if you're driving through Canada, easiest way is to drive east through Buffalo, Rochester. And this is the Otesaga Resort that I mentioned, Saratoga Arms, going up to the Point here, which is Lake Placid and Saranac Lake, and then going east to go to Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So that's a great, if you are going to go through Canada, that's a great way to essentially go through some of upstate New York and then go through to east to Maine. The other approach is obviously to go south past Cleveland and Pittsburgh to Nemacolin Resort, which is here, to Lancaster and Gettysburg, and then go north to Rhode Island, and up to the Cape, or to go north through Western Massachusetts and up this way. And obviously, we can customize your trip based on the number of hours that you want to drive, and how many stops you want to make along the way. You might want to start by going south this way, and then go up north and come back through Canada. There's a lot of different approaches that you can take depending on how long you want to drive and how many stops you want to have along the way. I'm just going to share with you quickly some pictures of some of the properties along the way, and then I will take questions. So for those of you, can everyone see a child going down a slide? Okay, great. So this is Nemacolin Resort. It's a more sort of all-inclusive property. It's about 130 rooms. This is the one that's in southwestern Pennsylvania, Forbes 5-star. You know, a lot of activities, golf. It's a larger property, but it has a lot of beautiful activities around it. This is the one that's close to falling water. This is the Inn at Leola Village, a much smaller property. This is the one that's near Lancaster. It's a small, you know, property, I think 30 rooms, a little bit more rustic, but definitely has, you know, 5-star service, and is a great stop along the way to, you know, to when you're going through Pennsylvania. This is Lake Placid Lodge, which is the property that we promote on Lake Placid. This is a much smaller, really 5-star property, right on Lake Placid. Incredible dining, incredible activities on the lake. Again, sort of that log cabin look, but very, very luxurious. You know, great food program, great lake activities as well. This is Troutbeck, which is the property in the Hudson Valley that I mentioned. It's a historic property that has a lot of history around office. Property I just stayed at recently, and just absolutely gorgeous in its design. It's got a pool, it's got tennis courts, a great property on your way in the Hudson Valley. I mentioned Ocean House. This is the property in Rhode Island. If you're looking for a beach property, this is really one of the best options for a beach property in New England. It's right on the beach. Taylor Swift's house is next door. So if you want to visit with her, you can. It's got beautiful multi-bedroom suites with incredible views of the ocean, beautiful beach, beautiful spa, great food program, and very close to Newport, so you can go see the mansions. This is Chatham Bars Inn, which is on Cape Cod and Chatham. This is our favorite property in the Cape. Again, right on the beach, beautiful spa and beautiful rooms, great golfing program, really beautiful property. Now this is Twin Farms. This is a all-inclusive property in Vermont. I would say one of the top 5 properties in all of the United States. It has very different cabins that are very customized and different for each type of client. Incredible Relais and Chateau food program. Really, really top-notch program. This is the White Barn Inn, which is in the Kennebunks in Maine. Very charming property. Again, really small, very private. Great place to explore Maine from as well. So that, I think, is a little taste of some of the properties that we talked about today. And now I will open it up to anyone who has questions. Let me, if you want to unmute yourself if you have questions, and then.
Yeah, so Norman, I'll jump right in because I know we have so many Taylor Swift fans on our webinar. So can excursionists create a private experience with Taylor Swift? Just kidding, just kidding.
Actually, it is possible.
Okay.
We have done meet and greets with celebrities too, so anything is possible.
Okay. I will kick it off with more of a serious question though. and this was shared in the chat box, and others will chime in if they have other qualifying questions for this, but we all certainly appreciate that Excursionist is monitoring the situation everywhere and, you know, vetting your guides, etc. Could you just talk a little bit more about that? So for instance, are there preferred guides or preferred operators in certain locations where you know or you're actually monitoring the testing? So Excursionist has policies in place that are standardized in terms of safety for guests?
Absolutely. I mean, we only offer private guiding. So if it's a boat cruise, if it's a tour, if it's a helicopter charter, if it's any kind of tour that we offer, it's always going to be private. You're never going to be in the same, vehicle or the same boat with a stranger. In terms of our guides, I mean, obviously, the world is changing as we get more access to testing. More and more of our guides are trying to get tested. Obviously, as all of you are following the news, that's still not something that's been easily standardized yet. So we're not at a point yet where we can say, oh, that guide was tested yesterday. But we definitely know where our guides have been. Most of them have been social distancing. And if you have questions about, where a certain guide has been, what their history of in the past, how many clients they've, guided in the last 2 months, we can certainly get that for you. And if you need more, we're very much ready to customize that. But all of the experiences that we work with are private. The guides are all very open to providing as much information as possible. In terms of the hotels, we are collecting a lot of information from them, and before we will work with them, we need to make sure that we verified the safety, on their end as well. So, we're doing everything in our power to ensure that there is safety. Anything that you need as a client to understand, the safety of that experience, we're happy to get you more information, who the guide is. If someone absolutely demands, I need to know that that guide was tested the day before I arrived, obviously within reason, we can, we can work on that. If we can get that to you, as we will.
Great, thank you.
Other questions?
This is not a shy group, so I'm waiting, everyone.
Eat a lot of lobster.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to put together wine tours as well?
Absolutely. You mean in New England or in general?
In New England.
We do some wine touring in New England. Obviously, we've got wine touring all over the U.S. and Canada, but we have some wine vendors as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we're looking at a trip beginning in Detroit, ultimately ending in New York City, where I know I'm going to need to be at some point over the next few weeks, in putting together an itinerary, how would it work, like now or very soon, before we're completely in phase 3 with everything opened? Is that a possibility to put together something?
Absolutely. I mean, we're monitoring every property and every destination, day by day. It's definitely a challenge. Some areas are definitely more ready than others in terms of, reopening. But most of the properties that I've talked about are either open or are reopening in the next, week. So if you told us, my goal is to start in Detroit and end in New York, and I want, I want to do this many stops, we can immediately start providing you an outline of here what we recommend, checking with the properties and seeing what is open and what isn't open. What we're finding is the properties are opening, the restaurants are opening, but a lot of the indoor attractions are not. So you can go hiking, you can do outdoor activities, but a lot of museums and galleries and historical sites are still not open, and that's the area that we're seeing the biggest challenges. If you want to go to a museum, those are not open yet. But a lot of the properties are either reopened or reopening in the next couple of weeks, and we can definitely put together a full itinerary for you of all the stops.
Right, okay, thank you.
Norman, you mentioned the Point and also was it the Lake Placid Inn
Placid Lodge, yeah.
Lodge? Could you tell us a little bit more about those properties? They sound so beautiful.
No, they're gorgeous. I mean, Saranac Lake and Lake Placid are, absolutely gorgeous. You've got, hiking, you've got boating activities. It depends on if you have, some of them are adults only and some are not. So that sometimes that differentiates. I believe that the Point is adults only and Lake Placid Lodge is not. They're, a little bit different price points, but all beautiful properties. So it depends on what people are looking for. Are they looking for adults only? Are they looking for spa? Are they looking for a lot of activities on the lake? We can definitely kind of pinpoint which property is better depending on what you're looking for.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the cooking experiences that you offer?
Absolutely. We do incredible cooking experiences in Vermont, in Connecticut, in Maine. Typically, you're going foraging or there's some sort of farm component. Doesn't have to be, but we like to go out and actually, collect the ingredients, experience a farm, experience where the food comes from, and then go back to a test kitchen with one of our chefs and do an actual, hands-on, cooking experience with you where you're creating a meal together. Obviously, if someone doesn't want to do that and just wants to focus on cooking, we can customize it to what you're interested in.
I wanted to mention one of my favorite areas. Having lived in Hartford for many years, I love Litchfield County, and you mentioned the Auberge Mayflower, which is a fabulous place. But the whole Litchfield area, and then Hartford is such an interesting place. All of our friends on this call are involved with music and the arts and so on. And a couple buddies traveled with Kareem and me to Hartford and New Haven last fall. And we had such a wonderful time visiting the Hillstead Museum in Farmington and the museums at Yale and the Wadsworth Athenaeum. So I'd put a plug in also for the different parts of Connecticut.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll jump in with a question too, Norman, because I know many of us at this time are still, and us included, are waiting and seeing. Things are still, so volatile, but we all are really anxious to get out. And so my question is, tell us a bit about timing, because I think, us and a lot of folks on this call are ready to go to the White Barn Inn and all those places, but maybe not quite ready to plan yet, but we don't want to miss out. So it's kind of that whole FOMO thing where it's great that you have these programs in place for protection, etc. So when might be sort of drop dead days, or just give us some guidance on the planning piece, because I know from our conversations offline that, for instance, lodges and dude ranches out west are like booking up like crazy, and those are pretty much gone. And none of us want to see that happen with New England. So again, just help us with the timing. When do we really need to get going on booking things, putting itineraries together?
Well, it's been surprising because so many, travelers cannot go overseas, and this summer can't go to Italy and France and other places that they wanted to go. There's just been an incredible scramble to start, booking, trips in the United States. So as you mentioned, a lot of the luxury ranches like Rancho Rock Creek, Amangiri and places like that have surprisingly booked up, almost all summer already. New England is a little bit behind that, I would say, but certainly the demand will be there. It will be there for Maine. It will be there for Vermont. So my recommendation is certainly, we're not behind the curve yet. There's still time. I think that, August will be a peak period and even into September for travel to New England. I think, everything is just starting to reopen at the end of June. Things are starting to lift and, everyone's cautious. But I think by August, things will be absolutely full. So if you are looking to travel in August or September, my recommendation is to start, planning now, with the understanding that, everything is refundable, and everything, the process can be started now to at least get things, on the books. And then if God forbid something, you didn't feel comfortable or there was a reason not to go, it's completely easy to, to move that or refund it, but not waiting until August to try to say, oh my God, we need to figure out what we're going to do, because things are definitely starting to book up.
Okay, thank you.
Norman, having participated in several of your other webinars, wonderful webinars about Eastern Canada, Nova Scotia and so on, which are places that are of such great interest. Could you give us, a little bit more of your inside knowledge about the opening of the Canada border? You feel that it will be reopening within a couple months?
Yeah, I mean, we have a little. I mean, I don't quote me in the New York Times or anywhere like that. But we do have some connections to the government and to the tourism folks, and we definitely have a sense that it will not reopen June 22nd, based on kind of what is out there. The border for non-U.S. citizens to enter Canada supposed to open on July 1st, and that doesn't look likely either. But I do know that there will be pressure, and there already is pressure for them to reopen the border from a tourism perspective. So we really believe that August is probably likelier than not. Obviously depends on what happens with the number of COVID cases, and Canada is being extremely careful in terms of that. Every province has its own restrictions, and some of the provinces are not even allowing other Canadians in at this time. But we see August as being sort of that sweet spot. Most of our travelers who are interested in going to Eastern Canada are waiting till till August, to make their reservations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you suggest,
Guys, everyone's so quiet.
focusing on one area and then traveling from that? Does that make more sense? Or do you think, let's say in the Berkshires and then go up from there up to Maine, and does that help at all, or you think it's better to keep on the road?
Well, I think it really depends on asking. I think the first thing that we do is ask you, what are you comfortable driving in a day?
Mm-hmm.
And how long do you like to stay in a certain place? Some people like to jump around. So think about it as you would think about your trip to Italy. Are you the type to go and stay in Florence for 5 nights, or stay, in Sicily for a week? Or do you like to see a lot and move around? If,
Mm-hmm.
I think that, someone who wants to take 3 weeks and see a lot, you can really go, south and as you said, go through the Berkshires, go up to Vermont, and go up to Maine, and then come back.
Yeah.
But it is a long trip. There is a lot of driving. It's beautiful driving. It's beautiful stops, and we can find the right properties along the way. I think it's just asking yourself how long you feel comfortable, driving during one day, and how long you like to stay in a certain place to really experience that place. I mean, there's enough to do in the Berkshires for a week. There's enough to do in coastal Maine for a week. So it really just depends on your sort of desire to move around versus to stay and just enjoy one place and, the beauty of that place.
My experience is that the roads are very good.
They are. They are.
Mhm.
Yeah. We won't have a problem from a driving perspective.
Yeah.
Can you help if we wanted to do a trip that kind of had I use the phrase back roads, a type of approach to travel? Can you help with mapping out an itinerary that way? So in other words, it's Detroit to Pittsburgh, but it's not taking, 80 to
course.
76.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think all of the trips that we've been planning have been to try to avoid the major cities and to take back roads and to, experience some beautiful scenery that is along the way. There is incredible scenery, in Pennsylvania along the way, in Michigan along the way. So we can absolutely help you, create a road book that avoids all the major cities.
Right. So one can really say, I want the journey to be the destination. I
Exactly.
don't,
Exactly.
you can help with that.
Exactly.
Is there any kind of a dress code at the most popular hotels, or is there a dress code at all?
I mean, a lot of these properties, even though they're quite, high-end properties, are very casual when it comes to, the summer and the activities. They're not, suit and tie for dinner type of places. Ocean House, I would say, probably comes to mind as being a little bit more formal than others in terms of the dining room. But most of them, especially the beach properties, are pretty casual. You know, it's nice if you're like Kareem and Fritz and you've got your fun reds, but generally I think people can wear whatever they want, and people are, it's not that formal.
Norman, you mentioned Newport, which is such a fabulous a place for so many reasons. Are the historic cottages, have they reopened? Or
Not
will
yet, not yet. But they are looking again, I think, for a late July, early August reopening.
Okay.
A lot of the mansions and the cottages and the historic sites are still figuring out how they're allowed to open, but they're figuring out how to do that in a safe manner, with social distancing and all of that. So.
And also one more question for me, and I think I can speak on behalf of the group maybe a little bit, based on our personal taste as well. We really enjoy the smaller properties,
Yes.
adults only properties. And we certainly appreciate all the content you provided, and it's fantastic, but if you maybe give us some of your top picks in terms of places that would really be the quietest, the most intimate, the most special, if you were to give us 2 or 3. I promise we won't tell any of the other properties what you said.
Well, I definitely think that, Twin Farms is it's all inclusive. It's adults only. It's very, very private. It's very small. The White Barn Inn as well. And the Point and Lake Placid Lodge. Some of those properties are going to be, 20 rooms. You're not going to be, overwhelmed by people, and they're going to give you the most privacy for what you're looking for, I would say. Obviously, some of the other properties that I mentioned, like Nemacolin, are bigger resort properties. They all are operating at a reduced capacity. So none of the properties that we are working with right now are opening all of their rooms. So they even the ones that have 120 rooms are operating at like 60 rooms. So there is space between people. There is the ability to have people eating in the dining room with less, with the required distancing. So this summer, you're not going to see even an Ocean House, which is a big, building. You're not going to see the numbers that you would see in a normal summer, just because they're restricted in terms of the number of rooms that they can open.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we let Norman enjoy a wonderful Miami sunset?
One last question. This is off point, but something, Norman, that another thing that I enjoyed so much earlier was your overview of the national parks. You know, that's something that I haven't done before. But you know, there's so many incredible national parks with marvelous accommodations. You know, Glacier National Park with the Post, is it the Post Inn and so on. It wouldn't be too bad for us to get to. But also in New England, you have Acadia National Park.
Yeah. I mean, the national parks are incredible. This is definitely the year to visit because the number of people that will, even though we're reading about people going now in mass, the truth is that most of our national parks have more Germans and Chinese usually than they do Americans. So even though there's going to be a lot more Americans than usual, they really are not going to be at the same capacity that they are normally at. So it's a great time to go to places like Glacier, Yellowstone, even Mount Rushmore, the Badlands. If you are open to driving west, there are different ways to approach it. You know, we can do a driver with an RV to get you across country. We can, you know, obviously you can fly small, small private planes and just have that be a quick flight and then do the rest by car. Or we can map out the journey from Detroit so that there are stops along the way that you feel, you know, that there are places to stop and get there, you know, safely and quickly. But it is definitely a great time to go to the national parks in the Southwest and the West. If you're open to that kind of journey this year, it's definitely an incredible experience.
Another question from me, Norman. The property, there's a property in the Berkshires, Jacob's Pillow. Is that still open? Is that a property that you work with?
I don't know if we've not worked with Jacob's Pillow in a while. I don't know if it's still open actually. That's actually a really good question.
Jacob's Pillow is the dance festival, isn't it? And we have our dance expert, John, who's on with us. But
I was just trying to
Jacob's Pillow is the property, right? Talking about, sorry.
Go on,
I was just trying to unmute myself so I could say that the festival is definitely not happening this summer.
Okay. I once,
Tanglewood.
or Tanglewood, yeah. I once went with a friend to the Berkshires and went to Jacob's Pillow, and it was an amazing experience. It's really, I'm sure it's not open though. It makes sense that it wouldn't be.
Sorry, not the property. That's not a property is what you were asking. You were talking about the festival.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. No worries. Yeah. The truth is that most of the summer festival
Property says temporarily closed, which implies that it's not, that it's still there. It's just closed as everything else is.
You know, most of the festivals that we would normally see in the summer in New England are not continuing for this summer. So that is one thing to note that, you know, Tanglewood is amazing. And usually we would be sending clients to Tanglewood every year, and that's not happening. And most of what, even in Vermont, a lot of the great local festivals, you know, none of that is going to happen this year. So that is a minus, obviously. But the reality is that not for the cards this year.
mm-hmm.
Thank you. It's
Great.
been wonderful.
Yes.
Thank
you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, Norman, for taking the time with us. And hopefully we can do this again, maybe focused on another destination. So I'm sure I'll get feedback and we'll, you know, see if maybe we can travel somewhere else next time.
We would love that. Let us know where, and we're ready to take you on the road.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Norman.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.